the spirit of your and some risk that's involved yourself, how yourself have to change to do that. So these are the 2-3 things that would about a little bit about the risk to get you to that freedom day. Understand that yourself, your yourself have to change to get to that next step. That's daily prayer. We go from there. This is a beautiful prayer by my good friend Fatima Salah. Today, more than ever, I find myself in the hands of God. This is what I've wanted all my life, from my youth. Today, I enter into the consciousness of abundance and plenty. I know that everything I do will prosper. I know that every demand I make upon the universe will be honored. What I want wants me to. What I desire is moving toward me. Today, I expect success in everything I do. Today, I show up for myself with unconditional love. I show up for all the people whom I'm called to serve. Today is the day someone's life will be touched because I showed up for them. I'm happy to challenge myself this way. Give up something I prefer in exchange for something else more magnificent and meaningful than my comfort. This is how leaders are made, and I am one great leader. The world needs me more than any time, and I choose to do this for the world. So help me God. Amen. So, this next piece is Bob shared it with us, and it is beautiful. So, falling in love with your business, entering into the spirit of it. And because if you're going after something that's beyond where you're at, it's essential to get into the spirit of it. When you enter into the spirit of your goal, it sets up a mutual vivifying action and reaction between you and your goal. Create a clear picture of what you want your business to be like and to get into the spirit of it. Now, if you're listening and you want this article, reach out to me. Now, let's listen to what Bob has to say. And as you're listening to it, either listen vividly or you can be writing your goal. I'm assuming you've been writing your goal.
I've been thinking a lot about the consultants lately. And I'm sure you're aware of it, but I started as a consultant. We called them distributors at the time with Miguel Conant, but it's the same thing. And it can be a tough road or it can be an absolutely beautiful trip. Now, I'm constantly asked, what do you do? What do you do on a daily basis to make it work? Well, this is a book holder. It holds a book open. And I got this because when I went to visit Earl Nightingale, he had a book holder and he had a book open in it. And I took a look and he had a few lines underlined. And I said, Earl, what is the story behind this? Well, he said, I study the same thing for a long time. He said, like these pages here, I may read these for 3 months, 9 months, 2 months, a month. And it was from him that I really learned it is not the amount of reading, it's the understanding and application that makes a difference. I'm going to show you what's on this. And this is, I read every day, it's highlighted. Said to enter into the spirit of anything then is to make yourself one in thought with the creative principle that is at the center of it. And therefore, why not enter into the center of all things at once? Enter into the spirit of life. He said, you ask where to find it? In yourself. And in proportion you find it there, you will find it everywhere else. Entering into the spirit of it. Now, are you really entering into the spirit of your business? Are you really into the spirit of it? Because if you are, you're going to have somebody hold you down. You want to get out there, you want to get it going, you want to get it happening. You see, when we grasp the idea that spirit's all there is, spirit is all there is. Here I had the book holder and the book and the paper. Here I get a little clock. I can open and close the lid. These are all just things. This is something I was given in Israel when I was working over there. And, you know, this is my Think and Grow Rich book. Well, these are all made from the same stuff I'm made from, pure, unadulterated spirit. Now, the difference is this book has no ability to change itself. You and I do. This phone has no ability to change itself. You and I do. What do I mean by that? Well, they're all spirit. They're all an expression of spirit because it's all energy. However, you and I have this innate ability to change anything. Now, you're probably wondering, where am I going to get some business? Quit wondering where you're going to get business and see everything as business. Everyone you talk to today, everybody you pass, everybody stopped at the traffic light in that mess of traffic, they're all prospects. Everyone wants what you've got. You have to get into the spirit of what you're doing and realize that you've got to let them know what you've got. You've got something that's like unadulterated magic, like that. It'll change their life. It'll wipe all their problems away. It'll give them the prosperity that's their birthright. Are you into the spirit of what you're doing? I still am. And yet I've been doing it for over 50 years. Get into the spirit of what you're doing. Fall in love with it. That's how you want to start your day. In fact, play this video every day for 30 days. I want you to sit down, take your pen, take a blank pad, at the top of it, write your goal. Write your goal. I'll write mine. I just wrote mine. Now, I want you then to listen to the recording. Now, you're not listening to the recording just to hear the recording. You're listening to the recording. I want you to treat it as a stimulus to do something to your mind to help you come up with an idea that's going to get you to your goal faster. And I want you to do that every day for 30 days. You'll be glad you did. This is Bob Proctor. Thank you.
So good. So good. Enter into the spirit. Now, this next one is going to be good. If I find it. I think I'll find it. It's, I think, here somewhere. Where is Bob? Bob's stuff right here. Here we go. Here we go. In the studies, we often talk about self-image. We often talk about that we have to become something else. So the thinking into results, it's pretty much lesson 4 and 5 that gets you to write a new self-script. But I want you to see it and hear it from Bob himself. And so these are the lessons that he would share with us. You can even tell this is one of the very, very few where Bob is not all suited up. So enjoy this one. Unlike the acorn, we have the ability to choose what we will grow into. By creating an image of yourself as the person you want to become and planting that image in your subconscious mind, that image must manifest as certain and by the same law as the acorn grows into the oak tree.
Hello there and welcome. It's Bob Proctor again with your second Grow Up video. Now listen, we want your business to grow up. We don't want it to go sideways and we don't want it to go down. We want it to grow up. What's Spirit do? Spirit's always for expansion, fuller expression. That's what we want with your business. We want your business to grow up. This is very important. Now we did a survey of all consultants. Not all of them replied, but a lot of them did. And we found out the one thing that was wanted more than anything, or was needed more than anything, was a self-image lesson, where we had to help you build the image of the person that's going to be the success you want to be. So where do we start? I want you to take a pen, and I want you to write out, I am so happy and grateful now that. Then I want you to describe in your own words, in the present tense, of exactly how you'd like to see you in this business. Now let me explain. I've told this story 1,000 times, probably 10,000 different ways. I was very quiet and shy, and I knew nothing about sales. Absolutely nothing. When Ray Stanford first gave me Think and Grow Rich, he said, Bob, if you do exactly what I tell you, and read this every day, you can have anything you want. Now I'm telling you, if you will do exactly what I tell you in this video series, if you do exactly what I tell you, you can have anything you want. Now, I'm going to tell you what not to do. Do not be in a hurry to take this program out and try and get people to buy it, because they don't want it. What they do want is the benefits of the program. We talked about that in the last video. They want the benefits of it. Now, I want you to take the time to sit down and describe yourself as a successful person you want to be. Like I said, quiet, shy, and withdrawn. Today, I honestly believe I can sell our products or services to anyone. I really believe I can, because I think everybody wants what we've got. We just have to make them aware that that's what they want. Now, where do you start? Well, you start in your own mind. Listen, I've been given these models. Here's a little acorn, okay? That's obviously carved out of oak. Stay still. Here's another one. This is one Brian and Corey gave me, and the lid comes off. So we could use this beautifully for our demonstration. Now this acorn has within it, this acorn is just a mass of oak. That's what the little baby acorn is. And the seed that's in it controls the vibratory rate of the acorn, and the vibration of the acorn dictates what it attracts to it. It can only attract energy to it that's in harmony with it. So let's go on the screen for a moment, and we look here. Let's take a look. I want you to take a look. Let's take a look at nature. We'll take a look at nature, okay? How did the acorn become a giant oak tree? Well, let's think of how it became. First of all, it was planted in an environment that's conducive to its unfoldment. The acorn was programmed to grow into a giant oak tree. Now, how did that happen? Well, let's think. The acorn in itself is a seed. The seed has a pattern plan in it, a nucleus that controls the vibration of it. Everything vibrates, nothing rests. Everything vibrates. This pad is vibrating right now. It's called paper because of the speed it's vibrating at. At one time, it was called wood because of the speed it vibrates at. Pulpwood. I spent a little bit of my very early years in life in a pulp mill way up in northern Canada, in Mishiba Cotton Harbor. It's where they took pulp trees out, and I'd see these big logs on flat cars going out. And they said, that's going to be turned into paper. I suppose at the time I was left pretty confused, but that's where the paper come from. It came from pulp wood. So you've got wood, we alter the vibration, and now we call it paper. Well, the acorn is planted in the earth, and it grows into a giant oak tree. Now think, as we understand the laws that govern the growth of the acorn, we'll also understand that we grow by exactly the same law. We grow by exactly the same law. That programming is where we suggest you focus your attention. We'll focus our attention. We want to focus it in the programming, okay? Now let's think. An acorn is a seed. Within the seed is a nucleus or a pattern plan that controls the vibration of the seed. There's a pattern plan that controls the vibration of the seed, okay? The acorn is programmed to grow into just one thing, an oak tree. So let's see how this happens, okay? Let's take a look. An acorn is planted in the earth. Energy is attracted to the acorn that's in harmony with the acorn, that becomes one with the acorn. Now look at, there's earth that's jammed right up against that acorn. It's planted in the earth. So there's earth that's jammed right up against it, but it's not in harmony with the acorn. There's people that are jammed right up against you, but they're not in harmony with you. You'll be in a store, in an airport, and there's people standing right beside you. They're not in harmony with you. If they were, you'd feel it. And the fact that they're not, you feel it. You don't feel comfortable around them. Well, there's earth jammed right up against the acorn. That isn't in harmony with the acorn. However, there's earth that is some distance from the acorn that is in harmony with the acorn. And if we could see with our naked eye what's happening, just like obedient soldiers, there's little particles of energy that march right towards the acorn. It's attracted to the acorn. Why is it attracted? Because it's on the same frequency as the acorn. And when it gets to the acorn, it becomes one with the acorn. And what happens? Shoot comes out of the bottom, shoots come out of the top. Then we attract from the atmosphere as well as from the earth everything that's necessary to create the oak tree. How did it all happen? Let's look at the cause. A pattern plan is in the seed. It controls the vibration of the seed. Okay? The energy that created the oak tree was always here. It's in harmony with and was attracted to the seed. Okay? Keep thinking. Keep thinking. The acorn is in the earth. It's in an environment that's conducive to its unfoldment, okay? The energy for the oak tree is in the universe. The law of attraction brought them together. Now, stay with me. Your dream is the most important thing. You've got to make it very clear. You've got to describe how you want to be in exact detail. And if you don't, it's never going to happen. If you do, it's going to happen by law. So you see, unlike the acorn, we have the ability to choose what we're going to grow into. I've chosen to grow into what I am today. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of growth was involved. And I have attracted everything that I need. Everything that I needed. All the people in our company, I've attracted them. I attracted you, as a matter of fact. Now, be creating an image of yourself as the person you want to become, and then planting that image in your subconscious mind. I could say your universal subconscious mind. The image must manifest as certain as the same as the law grows into an oak tree. By the same law, it must. Now, think of what I'm saying here. Unlike the acorn, we have the ability to choose what we're going to go into. Why did you enter this business? You entered it because it seemed pretty fascinating. You saw the life that I was having. You think, God, I'd love to live the way that guy's living. He helps all those people. That's right. Everybody in our company is that way. And that's why they've been attracted to this company. Well, you choose the picture of what you're going to grow into, the person you want to be. That's what I told you. Write out the description of what you want to be. By planting the image in your subconscious mind, that image will manifest as certain and by the same law as the acorn grew into an oak tree. Okay? Now, let's look at this for a moment. Carnegie is the one that really was the one that got Napoleon Hill to do this great work. And what was one of his big ideas? He said, any idea that is held in the mind, that's emphasized, that's either feared or revered, will begin at once to clothe itself in the most convenient and appropriate form available. And what did I just ask you to do? Let's back it up. I asked you to write a description of the person you want to be. Carnegie said, when you do that, it must move into form just as sure as the acorn grew, because it's all grown by the same law. Any idea that's planted in the mind, that's emphasized, that's either feared or revered, will begin at once to clothe itself in the most convenient and appropriate form available. Now, let's go to a lesson on decision. Let these lines represent levels of vibration. Each level of vibration is referred to as a frequency. Okay? We think on frequencies. We literally think on frequencies. Now, here's where you're thinking. You say, no, I don't think that way, Bob. I don't think. Yeah, that's the way you're thinking. Yeah. You know why? I can tell by the results. If I was to describe your thinking, you'd probably say, no, that's not the way I'm thinking at all. I wasn't thinking of getting these results. You wouldn't have got them if you weren't. What did Job, the great sufferer in the Bible, say? Lo, the thing I fear has come to visit upon me. Maybe you feared it. Maybe you were worried about it. You didn't relate that to your thinking, though. That's your thinking. Oh, yeah. Just say, there's where I want to be. That's what I want. That's the level I want to be at. Well, say I made a decision to do that, and I'm going to do it as soon as what? And then you go ahead and describe the conditions you're going to do it under. And you're expecting to get it on that frequency. It's never going to happen. Pretty soon that decision fades. And then pretty soon the goal that caused that decision fades too. We say, I'm going to do that as soon as I get the money. I'm going to go to the next training, if I can get the time. Look at you based it on something that's happened on that previous frequency, it's going to die, and so is the goal. Why? Because you're down here. Your mind and your thoughts are down here on this frequency, so they're the only results you can get. When you say, I'm going to go there, and you make a committed decision, that's it. Your mind and thoughts must be focused on the same frequency as your goal. It's got to be on that frequency. That's the only thing. You see, you got to make a committed decision. You don't just do it if it's convenient. You do it regardless. You've got to think and act like the person you want to become. Are you thinking and acting like that person? Are you leading? Are you really communicating your idea effectively? Are you? I'm going to tell you something. That's how you got to see yourself. There's only one prerequisite. Want is the only prerequisite. Want. That's the way you want to be. You'll start thinking on that frequency. Think of it. Want is the only prerequisite. If that's the way you want to be, you'll start thinking on that frequency. And what's going to happen when you think on that frequency? Then you're going to attract, just like the acorn attracted. Remember, there was no energy jammed right up beside it. There was energy way down here, and it moved, right towards the acorn, and it became one with the acorn, because that's the way it works. That's the way it'll work for you. You see, that's why successful people make decisions so fast. They don't take months to become the person they want to become. They make a written description of exactly what they want to become, and then they get emotionally involved and they begin acting like that person. Now, it may feel very awkward acting like that person to begin with. It may feel very awkward. That's because the old paradigm is putting up a fight. That's why successful people make decisions fast. They understand. They write out an image of the person they want to be. They plant it in their mind, and just like the acorn is an image planted in it, a pattern plan, so do you. What is the lesson here? If you want to attract the thoughts and the things that's going to enable you to sell these, you know what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to get on that frequency. How do you do that? You make a written description of yourself successfully doing that. That's it. And you'll attract it. You'll attract it as soon as it gets dark out at night. That's the way it works. Worked for me, and it'll work for you. I like what Dave Ellis said. Understand the connection between personal development and fulfillment. If you want to be fulfilled, you got to stay involved in the personal development side. Your answer is right here, right above this. That's it. What's the only prerequisite you want? Do you really want to be that person? That's the only, and you'll attract everything you have to attract. People will start coming to you. They'll start coming. You see, I think what you really want to be is a strong leader. That's what you want to be. You know why? Because that's in the essence of who you are. It's Bob Proctor. Thank you.
It's an important lesson because it applies to every business, every dream, everything you want to become, not just for coaches. And it applies to all the things that we want to be. Like it does. That's just how it is. So I really suggest you read and write your self-image every day. I mean, every day. Every day, every day. If you're not going to write it, at least read it every day. It's very powerful. Very, very powerful. And we talk about it in all over the lessons. It's also here in my book as well. So self-image is critical. Any idea that's held in the mind, that's feared or revered. And that's why this is about science and psychology. It's both. It's both. Okay? All right. So we talked about yourself. We have risk. What time is it? 6:34. Okay. Let's see. Let's see what's going on. Oh, might as well share my screen, I guess, right? Let me share my screen with all of you folks out there. Now we're going to study a little bit of the graduate studies. This is where, so that was just a primer. We are going to do a bit about risk, but let's, I'm feeling we should do something about what Bob studied. And this is what I'm studying now, what his mentor taught him. It's truly phenomenal. Because he studied this with everybody. Everybody who's somebody. That's who he studied with. And I'm just going to show you the intro to it. Because it has to do with the laws. Really, it has to do with the laws. So we'll do this. Right now, I'm on lesson 6 in it. But we're going to do just the beginning of it. And then we'll go do the bit about risk, continuing to taking risk in your business and in your life. So let's see what Bob says about this that I'm studying with him.
Hello there and welcome. I'm Bob Proctor. And I want to congratulate you for enrolling in this new Lead the Field coaching program. And I want to encourage you to use it exactly the way we suggest. It won't be that difficult, but it won't be easy because you haven't formed the habit of using it yet. But you can get in the habit very, very quickly. It's a 120-day program. 120 days from now, you're going to need a telescope to look back and see where you started. This is a phenomenal program. Now, I'm going to tell you, I haven't got any doubt as to whether this works or not. I was losing. I always had been losing. I was 26 years old. I got into this program, it changed my life like night and day. I've earned millions of dollars. I have a company that operates all over the world. In fact, the company was so successful, Sandy Gallagher closed her law practice, and she had been very successful as a securities attorney, to join me in this company. And we're excited about the new Lead the Field coaching program. We're excited about what it can do for millions of people all over the world. Let me tell you a little bit about the background of this program. Way back around 1934 in Long Beach, California, Earl Nightingale was around 17 years old. And he had been told as he started to grow up by his parents that don't seek wealth, don't want to be wealthy. Wealthy people aren't happy. But he said, you know, I used to go down around the yacht club in Long Beach, and he said there were some beautiful big yachts there, very expensive ones. And he said some of the people on those yachts were laughing. They were very happy. But he said some of them weren't very happy. And then he went back into his own neighborhood where it was very, very middle of the road, ordinary neighborhood. And he said some of those people were very happy, but some of them were bouncing each other off the wall. They weren't happy at all. And he said, I determined at a very young age that it really didn't make any difference as to whether you were happy or not, as to whether you could be wealthy or not. So I decided I was going to be wealthy. Then if I was miserable, at least I could be comfortable, which was pretty good reasoning. But Earl started to study, why did successful people become successful? Now that has been studied by people for centuries. You can go far back, you can go back into the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the Torah, the Bible, all the religious books, all the scientific books. People have wanted to know, why is it that so few people really make things happen in their life, while so many others just level out and live almost the same all their adult life? It has nothing to do with intelligence, because some of the most intelligent people don't do very well. And some people who are functionally illiterate build big organizations, earn millions of dollars. It has nothing to do with gender, because both men and women win and lose. It has nothing to do with age. Some are fairly old and some are fairly young. Do you know what it has to do with? It has to do with understanding the laws of the universe. And that has been a subject that hasn't been that easy to study for a long, long time. I think we're making it easier now. The Proctor Gallagher Institute has been dedicated on making this study easier so people can get it without as much trouble, and get it a lot faster. And that's what you're going to find in the new Lead the Field coaching program. You see, way back in the early 60s, I got a hold of Earl Nightingale's Lead the Field. I ultimately went to work with Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant, his business partner, and I was studying this like a scientist. You see, I got a hold of this in the early 60s, and without any formal education, no business experience, I built a company that operated in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, London, England. I was earning over $1 million a year. When I started, I was earning $4,000, and I had a terrible record behind me. So what happened? That's what I want to know. What actually happened? I've been raised to believe if you're going to earn a lot of money, you've got to be really smart. I knew I wasn't very smart, but I was doing fairly well. I was raised to believe if you don't go to school, you can't win. I hadn't gone to school, but I was winning. So I wanted to know what happened. Now, I'd been listening to Lead the Field on these little 7-inch discs. There was a dozen of them. And I'd been listening to them over and over and over again for years. And I thought, there's got to be more than this, because the information on here is not too mind-blowing. It's not going to give you a brain hernia. But I thought, there's something happened to me. What happened and why? And I had difficulty finding anybody who could tell me. It took me 9.5 years. And it was while I was working with Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant that I figured it out. You see, when Earl made this, we lived in a different world. It was a totally different world. You know, we can communicate all over the world. There's as much power in this little phone as the power was in the computer that took the first rocket to the moon. Yeah. No, our world has changed, and changed dramatically. Earl, when he made this, could not put all the laws in there because people wouldn't understand it. We didn't talk about the spiritual aspect of a personality, or that a person is a soul. They don't have one. That was left to religious organizations and scientific organizations, but not to a personal development company. They didn't bother with that. Earl buried it all in here. And it was through the repetition of listening to this, I listened to it on this little recording. It's rather strange. It's just a little battery-operated record player. And I used to drive around listening to these records. And it was the repetition of it that burnt it into my mind. When I started to study it, when I started to work with Earl and Lloyd and really figure out what's in here, I thought, wow. Well then, here a few years back, I went and I sat down with Vic Conant, who's the chairman now. Both Lloyd and Earl have passed on to the next phase of their eternal journey. And I talked to Vic and I said, Vic, I have learned so much about what's in this. I would like to create a program. And so together, we decided to do that. Sandy Gallagher and I sat down and we put something together. Look at it. There's 232 pages. Powerful information. You hear about the laws? The laws are all in here, every one of them, and we explain how they work. We explain what attitude is. Attitude takes in the three parts of your personality. You're a triune being. You live simultaneously on three planes of understanding. I'm not going to go into it all here in this introduction, but I do want you to get into it all. And I'm going to ask you to use this exactly the way we recommend. Now, that's not too difficult, and yet on the other hand, it's not too easy. You're not in the habit of using it, so it'd be easy to skip a couple of days and then come back. Don't do that. Make a decision that you're going to form the habit of using this the way we've suggested for the next 120 days. I guarantee you it will change your life. You'll need a telescope to look back and see where you are. We have designed this in such a way, Sandy Gallagher and I have, for you to get out of it what we have got out of it. It's very powerful, very, very powerful. You have to ask yourself, why is it that so many brilliant people struggle? And many brilliant people struggle. Do you know only 3 or 4 or 5% of the population really make it big? Most people just level out all through life. They never go after what they really want. We should ask ourselves why they don't. They don't because they can't see how to get there. You're going to find out as you start digging into this that you don't have to know how to get there. We will show you why Hillary got to the top of Mount Everest, how and why the Wright brothers got us in the air, how Steve Jobs did this. In fact, he pointed out you cannot connect the dots looking ahead. You can only connect them looking backwards. Very, very big idea. This is one of the most powerful programs you've ever got involved in. And it runs every day for 120 days. You will see your world just keep getting better. It took me 10 years to figure out how and why it works. It won't take you 10 years. In 120 days, you will be able to look back and you'll see every change in how it happened and you'll know why it happened. That will prepare you then to go off into the uncharted future. Don't just do what somebody else has done in the past. That's a repeat performance. Go where no one's ever been. That is what makes life really interesting. Do you know Lincoln said to believe in the things you can see and touch is no belief at all. To believe in the unseen is a triumph and a blessing. We're going to introduce you to the part of you that you cannot see, neither can anybody else, but you can understand. So dig in. Make the new Lead the Field coaching program the instrument that's going to give you everything you want, because it will give you everything you want. This is Bob Proctor. Thank you.
I gotta tell you, getting to this lesson 6 in this Lead the Field, I have a whole different perspective on a lot of things. So it's pretty cool. So as promised, we are gonna do a bit about the risk, and that's again in the advanced studies. And I think we were here. We were here.
The man that was building it, I didn't know if he knew what he was.
Think about it. We position the goal, you're going for it, and then you get scared. You get scared. You're here and you want to go there. That's what we talked about earlier, the self-image. But how are we going to get to this frequency? He talked about it earlier, like in different ways he does. All right. In different ways he does. So let's see.
He was doing. Okay, he seemed to be pretty smart to me. He had done some other work for me. He was pretty good. So I had to take a risk in getting the person that I chose to do it. But I was taking a risk in even building this. The company was taking a risk. Sandy was taking a risk. She was writing a lot of checks to do this. So you keep thinking of these things. What you've got to know, when you build the picture of where you want to go, the risk is caused by ignorance. And the more we study, the more we eliminate the risk. Now, the more we study this material, the more we remove the risk, but we keep going where we want to go. What's in time in your life when you took a risk and created positive results because of it? Well, I can think of a number of times in my life. And then, how does the idea of taking a risk make you feel? You know, a risk will do something to you. A risk stirs energy inside of you that causes you to really look at where you're going and what you're doing. Now, I'm going to tell you about a risk I made years and years ago, shortly after I started to study this. I was always working at dumb jobs. There was an ad came in the paper, they were looking for firemen on the fire department. I think it was something like 20-some thousand people applied for the job. They were hiring 21. I knew a person that lived a couple of doors from my mother that was a magistrate. He was like a judge. I went and asked him if he could do anything to help me. I think he was impressed that I asked him. He got on the phone like that. I was one of the 21 on the job. I should have never gone on the job. First of all, I wasn't qualified. I didn't weigh enough. I was underweight. I didn't have enough formal education, but because I knew somebody. When you say it's who you know, well, there's a lot of truth in that. I was on the job. Now, I worked there for 5 years, and it was almost like we were retired. But then I started to read this book. I was working 7 days and 7 nights a month. And when I worked nights, I could go to bed. We'd make our bed, go to bed. And I started to read this, and I wasn't satisfied sitting around the fire hall. I wasn't satisfied going and putting out a fire periodically when one started if I was on duty. I wanted to do something bigger and better. And I got talking to somebody, and he talking about earning money, and he was talking about cleaning offices. And the more I talked about it, the more I got excited about it. I was building an idea in my head. Well, I was going to go into my own business cleaning offices. To do that, I had to quit the fire department. This was a choice job. Very few people could get the job. Now, there's some people wouldn't want it, but the socioeconomic area, I was saying everybody wanted it. And I quit to go and wash floors. Everybody thought I was crazy. But you know, within a year, I had 10% of the fire department cleaning floors for me. In less than 5 years, I was cleaning floors in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, London, England. I was earning over $1 million a year. Did I take a risk? I did. Did it work out right? Absolutely. Now, whenever I go to take a risk in the future, my mind always goes back to that. See, the beautiful part about taking a risk and winning, you can chalk that up, that's experience. And you can go back and say, well, I remember I did that, and I didn't know how it was going to turn out, and I did it, and it turned out well. But it turned out well because of certain things I was doing. I was studying. I was getting information from the right people. I didn't just go and clean floors. I went to somebody that was cleaning floors, that was very good at it, had a good business. It wasn't just a job to him. It was a business. And so it started to become a business with me. Now, I was eliminating the risk through gathering information. Let's open up and get some questions going here, Elizabeth. Is Elizabeth doing it or is Mikey doing it?
Elizabeth's doing.
Okay.
So we are going to do questions. So if you have a question for Bob, we will ask you to raise your hand virtually, and you do that by looking in the bottom of your Zoom screen. There's a reactions button, and you click raise hand, okay? So the very first person that I am going to unmute is Daniel. So Daniel, I just asked to unmute you, and you'll be set to go to ask your question.
Is it Daniel?
Yes.
Okay, Daniel.
Hello, Bob.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Great, thanks.
Perfect. Well, it's an excellent lesson, but as we get to sometimes to the decision to do things, it's very, very frightening. And how we can take out that from us, because, you know, you said, well, I got success, but, you know, there's always, you said, you know, risk that you may not conquer. So what we can do to feel that, let's say, to fill our mind and believe in what we are doing.
All right. Scott, throw the screen up, will you? Now, what you're doing, how'd that get there? Here, look it. There's your mind. You're talking about doing something you've never done before, and it's causing fear. There's a power flowing into your consciousness. You're building an idea, and it's a negative idea. The thought of doing something that you've never done before causes a negative image in your mind, and as you get emotionally involved in the negative image, it sets up a vibration here that's more commonly called fear. Now, fear is caused by you getting emotionally involved. This is your emotional mind with a negative idea. What do we have to do? Okay, look here for a moment. If we build a picture here of the goal, we see ourselves doing it right, and we let ourselves get emotionally involved in that idea, we're going to find the fear will leave. So you've got to focus on the goal. Every time you switch and come back here and look on this side, you're switching and you're looking at the negative side. You can't afford to do that. You've got to look at the positive. You're experiencing the fear when you've taken your mind off the positive and looking at the negative. You cannot win doing that. You never will. What we've got to do is understand, got to get rid of that, okay? We've got to understand that the fear is caused by holding a picture of what we don't want, okay? You're letting your outside world, or you're letting some negative concept from outside fill your consciousness and fill your emotional mind. Let me just clean that part up for a minute. Hold on. Okay. Want to get emotionally involved. Okay, take that down now, Scott. When you hold an image of the goal, that's going to keep you in a good vibration. You've got to stay in control of the win. And when you take that off your mind, the negative flies in. You've got to be very careful in who you talk to. Because if you're talking to people that would be afraid to do what you're going to do, they're going to say, I wouldn't do that. Best to do a little research, find someone that has already done what you're thinking of doing, ask them for advice.
Perfect.
They're going to give you good advice. They're going to support you. Don't go to someone that has never done what you're going to do. They're going to give you the bad information. They're going to tell you why you should be careful. They're going to talk about what you could lose. That's not a good idea. Understand this. Put there up again, Scott. Take a look at this slide. Put it up full screen. All right? Now you take a look at that. When you take your imagination and you go off to that higher level where the X is, your mind has already gone somewhere, and that is there. There is a place. Thanks, Scott. Now, what you want to do is keep that picture on the screen of your mind. And every time you find fear coming in, knock it out. Refuse to let it control you. Consider the alternative. Where's fear going to take you? It's going to take you downhill. Where's the goal going to take you? The goal is going to take you to where you want to go. Can you lose? Yeah. Do you know what I always do? I ask myself, what's the very worst that could happen? I'll frequently talk to somebody if they're talking about becoming a consultant and they're afraid. I'll say, do you think you possibly would ever end up on the street? Well, no. I said, do you think your family's going to starve to death? Well, no. I said, well, the worst that's going to happen is going to happen. Now, let's take a look at what's the best that could happen. That's where you want to go. That help?
Perfect. Yeah, very much. Thank you.
Good.
Really appreciate it. Thank you, Bob.
Now,
Thank you, Daniel, for your question.
I want to just rewind that for a second here. These last two questions with Bob as to when you're examining something, it's very important to remember this. So let's do that again.
level where the X is, your mind has already gone somewhere, and that is there. There is a place. Thanks, God. Now, what you want to do is keep that picture on the screen of your mind. And every time you find fear coming in, knock it out. Refuse to let it control you. Consider the alternative. Where's fear going to take you? It's going to take you downhill. Where's the goal going to take you? The goal is going to take you to where you want to go. Can you lose? Yeah. Do you know what I always do? I ask myself, what's the very worst that could happen? I'll frequently talk to somebody if they're talking about becoming a consultant and they're afraid. I'll say, do you think you possibly would ever end up on the street? Well, no. I said, do you think your family's going to starve to death? Well, no. I said, well, the worst that's going to happen is going to happen. Now, let's take a look at what's the best that could happen. That's where you want to go. That help?
Perfect. Yeah, very much. Thank you.
Good.
Really appreciate it. Thank you, Bob.
Now,
Thank you, Daniel, for your question. Can I bring the next person? You ready, Bob?
what's the name, Daniel?
No, Daniel was the last one. The next person I'm going to bring live is Karen. So Karen, I just asked you to unmute you.
Okay, so we'll listen to this question and then
Hey,
we'll
Karen?
Hi, Bob. How are you?
Very good. How are you doing?
Thank you for taking my question. My question is about visualization. Should I be visualizing my weekly goal or should I be visualizing my self-image?
Well, I think you want to do both. You see, what you're doing when you're imaging your goal, you get a beautiful image on the screen of your mind. And you can flip back and forth and see that's you in this new position. So you're forever upgrading the picture on how you see yourself, but then you're upgrading the picture of how you see the life you're creating. What you want to understand is that everything begins in a vision. Everything. It starts in an image, a vision. So when you're talking about a self-image, you're building the picture of the kind of person you want to be. And if it's a goal, it's something you want to accomplish. So you're going to be doing both, and you'll flip back and forth from one to the other.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Very good. Good question. So here we are. We did it. Another day of growth and change and learning. So go out there, be the best you could be. Have an amazing day. Have a sensational day. You can do it. And what I gotta, if I but
What's the worst that can happen? But saying somebody else, but then yes.
hopefully, I already know, hopefully has given to the frequency that we finish with this page.